Translation. When the ruling administrators, who are known as Kshatriyas, turned astray from the path of the absolute truth, being desirous to suffer in hell, the Lord, in his incarnation as the sage Parashuram, uprooted those unwanted kings who appeared as the thorns of the earth. Thus he thrice 7 times uprooted the Kshatriyas with his kingly sharpened chopper. Purport. The Kshatriyas, or the ruling administrators of any part of the universe, either on this planet or on other planets, are factually the representatives of the almighty personality of Godhead, and they are meant to lead the subjects towards the path of God's realization. Every state and its administrators, regardless of the nature of the administration, monarchy or democracy, oligarchy or dictatorship, or autocracy, am I saying that right? Autocracy, have the prime responsibility to lead the citizens toward God realization. This is essential for all human beings, and is the duty of the Father, spiritual master, and ultimately the state to take up the responsibility of leading the citizens towards this end. The whole creation of material existence is made for this purpose, just to give a chance to the fallen souls who rebelled against the will of the Supreme Father and thus became conditioned by material nature. The force of material nature gradually leads one to a hellish condition of perpetual pains and miseries. Those going against the prescribed rules and regulations of conditional life are called Brahmojita Padas, or persons going against the path of the absolute truth, and they are liable to be punished. Lord Parashurama, the incarnation of the personality of Godhead, appeared in such a state of worldly affairs and killed all the miscreant kings 21 times. Many Kshatriya kings fled from India to other parts of the world at that time, and according to the authority of the Mahabharata, the kings of Egypt originally migrated from India because of Parashuram's program of chastisement. The kings or administrators are similarly chastised in all circumstances whenever they become godless and plan a godless civilization. That is the order of the Almighty.
That verse. We can recite that verse. One should not become mother, father, king.
I don't know the Sanskrit.
I know last line, Namoche Samupechum Mrityum. Unless one can deliver. Namoche Samupechum Mrityum. Unless one can deliver his, in the case of a mother, that means his son, his daughter, his child, or in the case of the king, should now become a demigod, a guru. One should now become a guru. Do you remember that story?
The Sanskrit?
Okay. Namoche Samapechumachum is the last. So all these personalities, the king, Prabhupada points out here in the purport that it doesn't necessarily have to be a kingdom. It can be an oligarchy, it can be a democracy, it can be a yeah.
Gururna sasyat svajanona sasyat.
Let's go a little slower. Gururna sasyat
Svajanona sasyat.
svajanona sasyat.
Pita nasasyaj.
Hmm?
Pita nasasyaj.
Pitana sasyat
Janani nasasyat.
jananina sasyat
Daivim natatsyan.
daivim tasatsa
Napatish chasasyan.
tisha
Namochayed.
amojayed.
Ya samupeta mrityum.
Okay. Let's go through the words. The first one is
Guruhu.
one should not become a guru. Okay, that guru means Diksha Guru or these other positions also that are described. They're also gurus because the father's also guru. Mother's also guru. Mother is giving so many instructions. Nowadays, people are having children, but they're not qualified to deliver them. So that they shouldn't become mothers. So what should they do? They should become qualified to be mothers. Learn how to become a mother. It's not so difficult to learn how to become a mother. One has to follow the example of the great mothers who were great mothers like Kunti. Kunti's a great mother. And all the mothers that, even the example of Dhruva Maharaj, his mother, she advised him that the only one who could help him in his situation ultimately was Krishna. So the child took that and he went to find Krishna. And that was perfection. So the mother, she went back to Godhead because of that. Bharata Pradakshika Guru. One shouldn't become even a Bharata Pradakshika Guru unless he knows he shouldn't give someone advice in life unless he knows. Unless he knows how to guide them so they won't have to take birth again. If he can't guide them in how to not take birth again, then he shouldn't take the position. It's like we have now Prabhupada's pointing out here that ultimately the state is responsible. So whether it's the king or the oligarchy. If it's an oligarchy or a group who's managing, then all the members of the group have to come to a conclusion that we will guide this state or this group of people according to the Vedas, according to Bhagavad Gita. Then they're qualified. And they can do it. It doesn't make any difference whether they are, even communism. The idea of communism is, in the ultimate sense, to do good for the people. That's a good thing. Nothing wrong with that. We're not against communism per se. Although we may accept that the Vedic system of monarchy, enlightened monarchy, is the best. And that we can accept because Krishna says, of man I am a monarch. And we see he gives so many instructions about the type of management. But still, even if it's not the best system, if they're using communist system, like Prabhupada, when he would speak with people who were in favor of communism, he'd say, we're also, like when he spoke with Professor Kotovsky in Russia. So they were interested in communism. So Prabhupada said, we're also interested in communism, but the state should be managed by a God-conscious person. If the state is managed by God-conscious leaders, then that will actually be good. It's like he was saying that in your communism, you accept Marx as the leading man. But we accept Krishna. The idea of accepting a leader is still there. So everyone's accepting some kind of a leader, whether it's an autocrat, a singular person, or a group, or a parliament. Still, they have to be able to bring the people, guide the people to God consciousness. Then everything's all right. You can have any type of system. If you follow Krishna consciousness, for example, Krishna's instructions that the goal is to get out of this material world, moksha, samapeta mritu, not have to come back and take birth again, not have to die again. How does that happen? Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tatvata tatvadeham punar janma naiti mamiti sorjan. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, if one knows the transcendental nature of the appearance and activities of the Lord, then upon giving up this body, he doesn't take birth again. But it really goes back to Almighty God. Very simple. So Krishna should be the center of everything. He should be the center of the governments, the center of the school district. Of course, now this is somewhat revolutionary thinking nowadays because we have proudly established separation of church and state. That religion should not be brought into the state, and we've separated the church from, or religion, from the educational system. So we're thinking that that's giving us protection from exploitation, that someone may misuse their position for espousing their own particular faith, their own particular religion, and imposing that on others. So we need to protect the people from that. That's correct. We shouldn't have one group of persons who are not qualified imposing their views on others by force. No one wants that. But if you have a qualified person or persons group, and they know what is actually the absolute truth, they know how to lead the people properly, how to organize society, then they should be in charge. They should have power. Because that power will then be used properly. For example, Maharaj Yudhisthira. Maharaj Yudhisthira he was so humble, so respectful to, and so willing to take the pains of others. He didn't like to harm anyone for himself. And who could, he was loved by everyone. Everyone respected Maharaj Yudhishthira because of his qualities. So if you have a person like Maharaj Yudhishthira, who would not want such a person as the leader? Whether it's for 4 years at a time, or here we have, I think you can serve 2 terms of 4 years each. And I think that's about it, maybe a little more. But if that person is so qualified that it's obvious that he's the most qualified person, and there's no harm in him serving more than just for 8 years. He can go on serving. So this means whatever country we're in, we don't have to take up a political scheme and try to change the system. We can use the system that's in place, but it should be rectified so that it's actually in the best interest of the people. In other words, this country has some nice slogans in the beginning. One nation under God. One nation under God. That's very good. So now, who's God? If the nation's under God, then the first question that any child will ask, who's God? And if we say we can't discuss it, we can't talk about it, then it becomes very bewildering. How can people not get confused and just they wonder what's going on? And then they take to intoxication because you're not getting answers, satisfying answers. Who's God? If it's one nation under God, well, of course, there's a group, the atheists, they don't believe that there is a God. And they don't believe that it should even be allowed to be discussed. So then there has to be some, at least, debate. If people just accept that and give up any kind of God conscious activity or discussion, then we're, as stated here in this verse, the ruling administrators turned astray from the path of the absolute truth, being desirous to suffer in hell. That's what happens. It means if we turn away from the path of the absolute truth, we must be desiring to suffer in hell. Now, the atheists will say there's no such thing as hell. Don't believe in this life after death. And science doesn't believe in it. So we're not going to allow it to be taught. Then there has to be some effort, a strenuous effort to counteract that. It can be done in a gentlemanly way, if you like, or according to whatever system you have. Just like here in America, it's not allowed to be taught in the schools, per se. But it is allowed to have free speech. So because there's free speech, you can speak about it on the street. not in the schools, on the street. So then you can use the streets. And it's allowed to, you can distribute books, you can sell books. Free trade, capitalistic system. So you can sell books about Krishna. And that's what we're doing. And it's legal. Talk on the street, distribute the books. This way we can be satisfied that we're making an active attempt to counteract. If you just go along with the system, just swept away, follow the crowd, and go with the flow, then you've wasted your human form of life. Will be completely lost, completely ruined. You'll have to go to hell because the general populace is on the road to destruction. It's on the road to hell, suffering, causing suffering. Go to a slaughterhouse. And if that's not hell, and what is that? It's hell for cows. May not be hell for a human. But that type of punishment will be inflicted upon those who inflict it to others. So this is in all the scriptures. This is not a new thing that someone's made up. It's in every scripture, every authorized scripture, that there's heaven, there's hell, there's a place where God lives, and there's a place where those who are against God live, and they suffer, and they're punished. So this is a new thing now that we're rebelling against all the old system. And that's why Prabhupada spent so much time trying to communicate with different leaders of religions. Whenever he had a chance to talk with a big religious leader, he would do it. And he would try to convince them that they should work with us. We should work together. Because at least these are the God-conscious people. There may be some differences, slight differences of how it's applied. But still, the principle that we accept that there is God and we should follow his instructions, and then we'll be doing the right thing. That's good, and that should be united. And so we need to have these kinds of interfaith dialogues, so to speak, without compromising, so that we can keep the standard, because the standard of Vaishnavism, as we know, is so high. Gaudiya Vaishnavism, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur points out that the system of Gaudiya Vaishnavism is so great, you can actually say there's one religion, that all religions belong to that. And to the degree that they follow Gaudiya Vaishnavism, they're following the religion. Because it just is so totally inclusive. It takes everything into account. All aspects of understanding God, realizations, and giving everyone their due position, giving them the respect and like that. So Gaudiya Vaishnava, because it doesn't discriminate against anyone. No one is discriminated against because of their family, their heritage, their birth, their caste, creed. No one is held higher or lower because of these things. And even if someone is to be respected, he He doesn't take that respect for himself and misuse it. So these are, if one actually studies in an objective way, he'll see that Gaudiya Vaishnavism includes all the religious principles, the actual religious principles that are incorporated in any other religion. And same thing with science. Krishna consciousness or Gaudiya Vaishnavism includes all the science that you would find. Anything, a true scientific principle, for example, something about water or something about earth. If you go further, you'll find where the water comes from, where the earth comes from, how it's comprised, how it's designed, all these things. So it's all inclusive. So why did Parashuram take such a strong stance? He wiped out the Kshatriyas 21 times because he was strong enough to do it. And he knew, being an incarnation of the Lord, he knew exactly what should be done. And this was the only way to treat them. If you can give them good advice, then you can use logic and argument, philosophy. And you can use other systems too. Somehow or other, it's the duty of those who are in the position of rulers to make sure that all the people are getting pure God consciousness, pure knowledge of the absolute truth, nothing cheating, no imperfect information is being passed down. At least if one can do that, like Prabhupada said, if you don't have so much knowledge, give the example of little Saraswati. So she preached. She said, "Do you know who is Krishna?" And the person says, "No." She says, "He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead." That's all she didn't know so much. But that was perfect. So if whoever's in charge, if they preach that, what they know, which is correct, then that will be beneficial for everyone. Thank you.
Jai Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.